that you enjoy loving things. I don't know why it's so rare nowadays. Man, you go on the internet, people are cynical as hell. People are cynical everywhere. And it's like sometimes people feel like ashamed to enjoy things, or like feel like they'll be cringy if they express themselves too much or love something too much. Like, I think people are genuinely scared to express love for stuff because people will make fun of them for that. I have literally just tweeted like, man, I love the big three, I love One Piece and Naruto, and I'm so excited to get to Bleach, and I had people like assholes just make fun of me and say that like I'm stupid and shit like that. Obviously I don't care about that. There's no reason to care about that, but like some people do, and it's understandable that you do. And so that's why I think expressing yourself and expressing love for stuff unabashedly is discouraged.
So you got incredibly depressed over the announcement of a game in a series that you aren't even a huge fan of to begin with in the first place.
That's right.
Who the f*** is this guy?
Oh dear, my system is out of order. No one understands my case. You don't know what I suffer, moaned Henry. Rubbish, said Thomas. You're too fat, you need exercise.
I don't want to say that all kids' media needs to be educational, because I don't think it needs to be. It just needs to be engaging. It should at least challenge the mind in some way, not just be colorful and keep kids' attention so that they shut up and stop talking. If it challenges the mind with fun characters and good jokes, that's cool. If it does it with actual math problems or vocabulary taught by exploding slobs, that's great. If you just want to hold a kid's attention, at least teach them something. And if not, then make them laugh. Don't just make a show about literally nothing to distract kids with colors and music.
When I was writing this bit, I never thought it would devolve into me just thrusting and one person going, yeah.
What? What are you talking about?
It felt like they never wanted to blame themselves for the series' low sales and instead chucked it up to, oh, people just don't get Chibi Robo. What's there to get? He's a tiny robot.
How does a company do so well but goes f***ing asinine when it comes to Chibi Robo? What's so difficult about understanding that, if I don't market a game, or if I release it at the end of a failed console's lifespan, or I only release it at a store that sells f***ing hoses at, or maybe if I take the only 2 games that may have had a chance in North America and only release it in Japan, that it may be my fault the game's not doing well instead of the games themselves!
I'm impressed still, obviously, but it's too unattainable to want to act on that feeling. I can appreciate it, I just can't apply it to my own life. There's no accessibility. It can even be discouraging to recognize the talent gap between myself starting out and someone so far ahead of me. And this is where bad art comes in, because the second kind of inspiration is purely internal. It's personal. You're recognizing yourself in someone else's art. It's as if there's a sense of class solidarity, but for talent. Seeing something like this inspires me because of how much more approachable to me it is than this. I get the same sense of, that's so cool, but then I also think, maybe I could do it too. And to motivate yourself in taking first steps to make anything, you want as many of those maybe I can to's as possible.
It turns out that openness hasn't made me ostracized. It's made me friends. Some of those friends share my weird interests, but I think some of them are people who like me for other reasons and just happen to find me more approachable when I'm more open. All that masking my weird interests got me was lukewarm acquaintances, not true friends. It also led me to internalize a lot of shame about who I am, and shame is the antithesis of confidence. I never want to misrepresent myself as someone who figured everything out, and now my life is perfect. As I was working on this script, somebody at work said something about my masks and it really got to me for a few days. And that's okay. You don't have to S-rank every conversation. Actually, I found that I'm better at being confident when I don't rely on perfecting every encounter. Real confidence comes from knowing I'll be okay, even if something hits me pretty hard.
C. Compass. First question is, where you going? What direction, roughly, do you want your life to be headed in? That's one of those questions that is freakishly daunting, and sometimes questions like that become useless because they're more intimidating than they are energizing. What I think makes what direction do you want to go in life so freaky is the need to have a specific answer. But a general answer? Yeah, I'm roughly headed north. I think kind of takes that pressure off. When I think about this, I sort of imagine that I am on a bicycle riding through the desert, trying to follow a North Star. In that scenario, there's no pressure to know perfectly which direction to head, more just like that way, kinda, which sort of takes out that barrier to entry. And also, because it's a bicycle, every bit of movement counts. Doesn't matter if you're pedaling super fast or just kind of relaxed, as long as you're not doing nothing, you won't fall.
Do you know it's the morning? It's not even nighttime yet, and it's already awesome. You know they say put your thinking cap on? This is my thinking cap for today. I didn't even do anything yet, and I'm already thinking great stuff.
As you're doing this, note down the changes you are making. The key here is to think, why did the master make a different move than me? And write down your best guess. For example, here, the eyes and nose are in a higher position in the original than in my copy. Thinking about the reason why? My guess is that I didn't consider the tilt of the face enough in my copy.
I encourage anyone to find artists that you see yourself in, to consume art that's accessible until you feel a creative spark, and then just act on it. Chances are it'll be in something that's driven by passion instead of profit, so start digging around. It has literally never been easier to find obscure things, but instead of just looking up a list of hidden gems, I think it's worth it to look for yourself, because taste is subjective, and having the starting place be something you already like is a cheat code.
Stuff like this hopefully gives you a little bit more insight. Because if you were to think about it in professional sports, like here's like someone lifting a lot of weight and they're achieving a lot. You see this, you're like, hey, I can do that. But you wouldn't say that, right? You would be more like, well, that's, you know, it's really hard. I mean, but this is what happens when you try to do a copy and then try to go paint for yourself with no real information maintained at the end. You know, you just will fail, and you'll discourage yourself all the time for no reason, because you're basing your abilities off of a master who has spent years training, like, you know, some of them for decades, you know, more than a few decades sometimes. And if you compare yourself to the final works of these masters and your favorite artists and these great artists, yeah, you're gonna fail often, and you're gonna fall really hard. So you start leveling up your ability. Eventually, you can be on the guy on the left, if that's what you want to be, right? You can achieve that ability, but you have to train. I like to compare things to sports, because no one will ever complain that when you see a professional athlete be really good at the sport, no one will ever say truthfully that it's a talent, because people know that these guys, these athletes, train really hard.
Which was, fuck them.
One down your window, please, sir.
Fuck them.
One long breath into the bag, please, sir.
You can't just hand students a character rig and start teaching them how to animate it. You have to start with 3D animation itself. Not only the fundamentals of animation, but how a 3D program works and thinks. You need to start basicer.
It's nice of them to wave, and he whistled. Peep, peep, thank you.
Getting to be Lillian online has given me the chance to practice being me in a context where I'm more comfortable. It's given me the chance to recognize and nurture the best aspects of myself. I've become so much more confident and happy, both online and offline. As an aside, this is why I find Apple and Meta's virtual avatars that depict your meat body so loathsome. It's a rank attempt to collapse the digital self back into the offline, masked self, just like Facebook did away with usernames and avatars in favor of legal names and pictures of meat bodies. It's gentrification of online identity.
It's weird, this is it here. I'm not sure if it's any good because I think I'm too close to it, you know? I can't tell anymore. I'm concerned that it might be like an ugly baby that I'm looking at through the eyes of a loving mother. And it's not until I take it out for a walk in its little pram and people start screaming in horror and crossing the street to avoid me that I'll realise I've made a piece of shit baby.
Every morning, when I wash my face and look in the mirror, I see this scar. And I remember that day. So every day, I start the morning with all right. Oh, we're in. We're in, baby. Kagura Bocce Bros, let's go. Every day, I start the morning with fresh hatred.
What's my duty of care in this situation?
Like I said, once I noticed that this is what my channel had become, I realized what the value in it was. And I finally had a creative goal once again. I want to bring people into the abyss with me. I want to put words to the nagging, painful thoughts that so many people try to ignore and repress. I want to make people confront the shittiest parts of being human, and I want to be the first person to look them in the eyes at the end of the video and tell them that it's gonna be okay and that they can survive it. Unfortunately, if you were coming here for practical advice about writing video essays, I really don't have too much to share. These things are so different from what most people think of when they think video essay. They aren't critical, they aren't researched, they aren't based in fact, they're just kind of raw, chaotic self-expression. And the only real advice I have about writing is to do what feels natural to you and don't do anything else. There's a lot more nuance to writing than a lot of people realize. Everybody who's worth a shit has their own style, and to become worth a shit, you have to spend a long time honing that style. That said, I do have one piece of advice that might help keep you encouraged over that process of developing your own style. Earlier in this script, I said something about the words in my scripts flow just as easily for me as the words I use in those same conversations. And I thought for a second about how many people in my audience might not be able to relate to that sentiment at all. I know a lot of people who aren't so good at forming their thoughts into sentences. To be honest, I was f***ing horrible at it before I started this channel, as you can probably tell from my early videos. However, as I wrote and wrote and wrote, eventually I got really good at pushing my thoughts through the mesh filter of language. If we're having a one-on-one conversation, I can tell you exactly how I feel about anything without ever having to pause for more than a second or two, assuming I'm familiar with the subject to begin with. I know that this whole video has already been super self-congratulatory, so I'm not even going to stop myself from saying that I'm pretty sure I'm better at communicating my thoughts than anybody else I know. And God, that is such a sharp contrast from how I was before writing became a regular part of my life.
As valuable as creativity and experimentation are, there's many systems and games that succeed on the merit of not being noticed. And in these cases, unless you have a really good idea to change up the formula, following precedent is often not just the easiest, but also the best solution.
This shit has been solved. You don't have to be stressing out over it. Just do what everyone else does.
I've hit most of the big topics, so let's mop up the rest. Inspiration doesn't have to mean a deep, formative experience. If you play a wide variety of games, you're going to notice a wide variety of cool one-off things that stick in your brain, and I want that to be reflected here too. Fresh elements, the twists on the formula, preoccupations, and personality of its author that make the game notable, and define its lasting image in the minds of fans. If there's any concise thesis I want this video to convey, it's that it doesn't take that much to make a game feel fresh. Sometimes one good idea is enough if it's given room to grow and breathe and infect the infrastructure around it, to force innovation in its service and to contextualize the use of those elements which do not innovate. If the purpose of a game is to rehash the ideas of others, to quickly and efficiently build a simulacra of something popular in lieu of any intrinsic vision or creative impulse, then sure, you could reasonably write that off as opportunistic slop. But in reality, and this could be projection on my part, I think it's very rare for anyone who actually cares about their medium to operate this way, and if they are, then it's pretty easy to tell. Outside of these cynical cases, getting stuck stressing about whether every little part of your game is original can be a real mind trap, because if you look hard enough, nothing will be.
The discovery of this series changed my life, Or at least it pointed me to a direction I'm very happy I went in. The OCT community created in its wake shaped my design aspirations, it gave me my friend circle, and let me practice being a good storyteller. I'll forever be indebted to Unknown Person for indicating that all of this was here, even if incidentally. But I made this because everyone involved at the time earned their due. There is a tendency to depict the steampunk era as a world of optimism and opportunity for all, when there was a lot of things that were wrong baked into its system. Prejudice, inequality, expansionism, those all existed in steampunk's golden era, but modern tellings tend to brush that aside. But most of all, it's a call for happier times, not current times. There is sometimes a worry that at some point in your life, you will never experience happiness again, especially when the world seems bleak. This is rarely true in totality, but there are things that you'll never experience again. You peek into the window behind you, and you wonder not what the future will bring, but if you are alright with this belonging to the past, forever.
You know, we're going to go ahead. I have a few questions here still left.
Okay.
So, it must be nice. You know, most people, when they're 5 years old, they pick a career, and then they become an adult and do something serious like accounting. What's it like for you picking baking and then sticking with that into your adult life?
Wow. I still think you can bake still at the age of 5 and still bake at the age as a later adult.
Well, I liked to color when I was 5. I didn't decide that would be my career, but...
Coloring, I don't think, can put money into your pockets.
And I wouldn't think baking cakes would do that either, but... Okay, we're going to move on.
Yeah, let's move on.
Another thing I also wanted to ask, what's it like to be bald?